ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. June 25th, 2019, City of Aztec regularly scheduled City Commission meeting. Go ahead and officially call the meeting to order at 6:02. This evening we have the privilege and pleasure of having Megan Cullip here to do our invocation. Megan, remind me again, I'm sorry, what is your, kind of give us a little bit of quick background.
Yeah, I'm the newest pastor of the First Presbyterian Church in Farmington. Haven't been here a year yet. It'll be a year August 5th. So
Okay.
we got at a candlelight vigil.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Take back tonight or something like that. And a couple months ago, and I told her I was going to get a hold of her right away, and 2 months later, I gave her a call, and she was gracious enough to come in and do this after just talking to me over the weekend. So let's go ahead, and she's going to do the invocation. And Roz, would you lead us in the pledges tonight?
Okay.
And so, if you would.
All right, let us pray. God of grace, bless those who hold office in this government of this town, that they may do their work in a spirit of wisdom, kindness, and justice. Help them to use their given authority to serve the least of these and to promote the general welfare. Amen.
Thank you, Megan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and see a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thanks, Megan. Okay. All right, Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Price,
Here.
Commissioner Sykes,
Here.
Commissioner Lewis,
Here.
Commissioner Bendel,
Here.
all present.
All right, next is approval of agenda items. If there are any items that do not meet the approval for being heard on this evening's agenda, now is the time to remove those items. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of tonight's agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve this evening's agenda as given.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next is consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda will be voted upon with one motion. If any item proposed does not meet the approval of all commissioners, a commissioner may request that the item be heard under items from consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to pull item G
Item G, okay?
for discussion.
Okay, so we'll pull item G for discussion. I would entertain a motion for approval of consent agenda with the exception of item G.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item G.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are now under number 6, items removed from consent agenda. Item G, resolution 2019-1140, general fund accounts receivable write-off.
I don't know if Kathy is the one that's gonna answer these. I had a couple questions about the write-off of these. I mean, I know it's not a huge amount of money, but it just, I thought that the cart rental, we were supposed to get 20% of that. I thought that was the agreed.
Yeah, it was 10.
We are. So specific to the current operating agreement, there has been, and I think we've talked, that the commission is aware of this, that there is, has been some discussion that there were some verbal agreements that were outside the written agreement. And so where we are now with that agreement, the golf course operator is now remitting to us, but that just began in January.
Right.
I don't know where the commission, I don't know where we are on going into prior periods, prior to January. Because like I said, there is a difference in what the operator understood, how those memberships were going to be applied versus what the city understands. And so the amounts that are specific to the current operator that we're requesting the write-off on is in that period. Part of it was for the initial was liquor license for that first year.
Reimbursement for that.
And then we had that conversion when we were still paying some of those utilities until the operator was able to convert them over to his name. And so we had continued those, but again, it's into that period when Mr. Hodge feels that those membership fees that the city had collected should have been helping to fund his operations, but that was all a verbal agreement. And I don't know, I don't
with
know
whom?
where the commission's at in.
Previous city manager.
Yeah.
There was discussion there.
But we didn't get a lot of stuff into writing.
I'm
Well,
not,
there was nothing to
There's
write.
nothing
I'm not trying to be
specific to
contrary,
that
but-
other
No.
than-
you know, if I tell Steve that, you know, hey, I'll give you $100 a week for a horse, and then he leaves, and then the new guy comes in and says, you know, what are you talking about? That's not, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
Oh,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one, that's why I
And could you
was-
refresh, what is the amount we're talking about? I remember
The
reading it,
total
but.
amount is $5,575.91.
But
my
of that
hotel
amount,
stuff.
only
Yeah,
2,400 is specific to the
Yeah.
current operator.
Right.
To the, right.
Right.
The other was tied to Microtel at the time with
Right.
some
Yeah, oh,
passes.
yeah,
Right.
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 And those,
There's no written agreement.
and to
on-
where we can come back on them on,
Well, we can't.
because we don't have a written agreement.
We don't have a written agreement, and those amounts, the
And-
stay and play passes and then the whole sponsorship have nothing to do with the hotel property. So I can't, we couldn't have even
And,
leaned
and
those.
because of the whole situation there.
Well, because we did lien some amounts that were due, but they were specific to the property.
Not-
These don't have anything to do
Right,
with that
right.
property.
I just, because when we did have that one workshop with Mr. Hodge here, we brought up about the 20% rather than the 10%, and then they were gonna go back.
That was corrected.
And
Yeah,
that was
And he has,
corrected.
but we've only started receiving those revenues beginning in January.
Right.
because
And when was that?
according to his calculation, that's when,
All the past memberships and
right,
the ones that had already been paid
correct,
prior to Randy taking over.
Right.
right.
So he did his own sort of accounting of sorts and said, okay, based upon my figures, we're good in January, we're even now, so now I'm gonna start paying my 20%?
So,
But
Well,
it's
off the
just
card
on the
fees.
daily
Right,
rent.
right.
Right.
so from now on, we're gonna receive the 20% on the daily cart rentals, or we're still only receiving
No,
10%?
he's doing the 20%.
Okay,
Correct.
okay. Because it still said in here, beginning January of 2019, 10% of daily cart rentals as per the agreement.
Right, okay, and that's my mistake.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just,
It's at 20.
okay.
That was correct.
Okay,
after
I
that.
just,
Yeah.
I thought that's what I remembered, so I was just wanting to, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, we
Maybe
can leave this.
we table it. Maybe we
on.
should table
We
it.
don't have to do it now, it's just gonna be one of those things that will have to be resolved when we terminate the operations.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Which
ma'am.
is not
My-
till,
My sense is, it's a bitter pill, and we just swallow it because we're working toward getting out of the golf
Right.
business, and this is just another piece of cleaning up a situation that we
Yeah,
didn't
that's
have
a
any
good point.
part of in the past.
And despite
And-
verbal agreements and all that, you
Right.
know, we
well,
just,
without.
We
some of
don't,
that
we don't
stuff in
have
writing, it's kinda
any
hard.
Right.
basis
We're not
to,
getting it.
right,
right.
any paperwork.
We're not gonna get it back.
No.
I mean,
Not that $5,000 is nothing, but it's not $45,000 or
Right,
something,
right.
you know?
But, the other issue with that, it goes back to some of the issues that we discussed during the workshop, was that as the city transitioned out to Randy's management, it was, people had paid for a membership for an entire year. The city stepped out in some, not all, because they weren't prorated. And we were undecided as to how we were going to handle that as well. As far as, refund cut and dried, no, city's not in it anymore, your membership's no longer valid. So it was no man's land, really. And
Okay. Yeah.
to an extent, it still is.
Bunch of
Okay.
refunds.
Mis-
and-
Right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
I know I've spoken to Mr. Mueller earlier this week about this very subject, and we had talked about verbal agreements, and I think my eyes got very wide when he said verbal agreements, because people either don't do that, and he says sometimes they did, so I guess it's one of those things you have to grin and bear it and get over it.
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
No, thank you, that's a good, I'm glad you pulled that. Does anybody have any further discussion? Anybody? Okay. All right, so I guess we'd entertain a motion for item G.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve Resolution 2019-1140, General Fund Accounts Receivable Write-Off.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Let's see. Citizens input.
Oh, we got a business item.
No, it's after.
Yeah, it's after.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I was
Thank you.
thinking.
No, yeah, you're right.
I was hurrying us along a little more, I was thinking ours.
Okay, so is there, Carla, is there any citizens input? No citizens input this evening. So now move on to item 10, business items. Item A, intent to adopt ordinance 2019-492, amending chapter 22, public property, section 22-513, and incorporating the fee into chapter 16, fee schedule. Mr. Saavedra, good
Mr.
evening.
Mayor, City Commission. So first and foremost, this is not a new fee. Fee has been there since 2007. If you look under Chapter 22, you will find it right then and there. However, the reason this is coming before you is Chapter 16, the fee schedule did not reflect this. And so as a result, we're asking for concurrency so that Chapter 22 and Chapter 16 can be consistent. Again, I know it was reported in a newspaper outlet that this is a new fee. And let me reiterate, this is not a new fee. It has always been there, or at least until 2007.
It just didn't get incorporated into the,
That's correct.
It's basically a typo. It got left out,
It was just
you know,
an
right,
admission,
yeah.
And so we're just,
So nothing
bringing it
new,
forward.
you're just kind of putting in there and you're just saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Yeah. So,
Okay.
seems pretty straightforward to me.
Mhm.
I don't personally have any questions. Does anybody have any discussion or questions for
I'm
Mr.
just
Saavedra?
curious, what an encroachment on, like, what someone need an encroachment permit for?
it's a great question. So this is specifically for city property. So we have a lot of actually encroachments throughout Aztec, specifically in the Old Town site. But it could apply anywhere. So for example, if somebody wants to build a fence and we look at the property and we notice that you're actually on city property, there's a couple ways that we can go about it. We can say, first and foremost, there is a provision that says nobody is allowed to encroach or be on city property. And there's a lot of good reasons for that, specifically liability. If somebody gets hurt, they can come back to the city. Now, what this does, because there's, again, situations where, you know, it never was properly surveyed and people just built over time. You know, the city back in 2007 created this exception so that will basically allow you to be on city property so as long as you have a few things in place. One, there's an acknowledgement basically stating that at any point, if the city needs to utilize back our property, and whatever you've placed on city property can be removed at such time with a 30-day notice. There's a fee associated with that. There's basically this disclaimer that goes with it. So if you want to build a fence and it happens to be on city property or put a shed on city property, there's a mechanism to say that you acknowledge, because property changes hands. So you acknowledge you've placed it there knowing that it's on city property and that you are responsible. We're not responsible for any maintenance of that structure. If somebody gets hurt, hopefully this will cover us, but we're always liable, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So hopefully that kind of answers it.
Yeah. Cool, thank you.
Okay. Anybody have anything else for Mr. Saavedra?
No.
Thanks, sir. Open for discussion? Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion for business item A, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Sir?
I move to approve the intent to adopt ordinance 2019-492, an ordinance amending Chapter 22, Public Property, Section 22-513, and incorporating the fee into Chapter 16 fee schedule.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye?
Mayor Pro Tem Fry,
Aye.
Commissioner Sykes,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay. No quasi judicial hearings, so item 12, Commissioner, City Manager, Department Head Reports. Mr. Mueller.
Yes, sir. We've got the annual employee picnic coming up July 11th, starting at 12 o'clock. That's a Thursday down at Riverside Park. Plan on shutting down city offices at noon that day to allow all the employees to go down to the park, enjoy the afternoon, cook out, grill, all that good stuff. But put that on the calendar for July 11th. Also coming up, I'll be attending the city manager's municipal league meeting the next couple of days. Be down in Rio Doce, returning on late Friday, but I'll be in contact via phone or email. And then the last thing I've got, the annual New Mexico Municipal League Conference is coming up August 28th, 29th, and 30th, which is in Las Cruces. So if you're interested in going, let Carla know, or myself, and she's going to make room reservations and stuff. We'll get all the forms filled out, but just be aware that that's coming around, and we need to probably make some hotel reservations pretty quick.
28th through the 30th, right?
August 28th, 29th, and 30th in Las Cruces.
Of June?
I missed last year. I'm going to go.
And that's all I have, sir.
August.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, sir. We don't have a city attorney this evening, so Commissioner Lewis.
The San Juan Water Commission has canceled its meeting next week, July 3rd, in deference to the holiday, I think, which is a good thing. That was probably pretty much it. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Commissioner Sype?
I did attend Northwest New Mexico Seniors, and I have an MPO meeting Thursday here in Aztec. And Commissioner Fry attended the EDAB meeting for me this last week, so I'll let her comment on that. I was getting ready for a wedding. The only other thing is, I just want to remind everybody to have a happy and safe 4th of July, and just keep in mind that, you know, why we celebrate the 4th of July, and what makes us such a great country, and the people who fought and died so that we have those freedoms to do that. Just keep all that in mind and be safe. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Randall?
I want to give a shout out to Public Works. They did a Reba Street right behind my house, and so it was funny because the weekend before I was driving back there, I thought, man, this road's terrible, like just like an alley. And then like the next week, it was just they put a bunch of new gravel on it and graded it, and it's looking really good. I didn't say anything to anyone, but it made me look really cool because the neighbors were like, oh yeah, I'm like, you know.
Yeah, I know people.
Yeah. It was funny watching the grader go back and forth behind the fence. My son's like, I think he's just doing that for fun, Dad. He's just kind of like, maybe, bud. But no, it looks really good. I didn't even know it was on the schedule, so Reba looks really nice back there. Got lodger's tax next month, and we don't have a library board until September. So it'll be a while before I give my next library board report. That's all.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I attended the San Juan Safe Communities Initiative meeting, and they had some speakers that were talking about new programs within the Farmington School District, essentially similar to trade schools, where people will be allowed to select a work or become an intern and work and take classes and graduate from high school, and thus be picking a potential profession while they're in high school. This program has a history of reducing dropouts and increasing high school diplomas in a school district. Superintendent Carpenter wasn't there for us to explore the potential interest in this type of program in Aztec. So this one right now is just in Farmington. And they had also selected their, I believe, 13 seniors for the You Matter program. I did put in a request from the director to see how many of those were Aztec students, and I haven't heard back from him. So I hope there was some selection of Aztec folks for that. And I did attend EDAB. It was a great, encouraging meeting, and we have a serious person interested in the building across from the Main Street Bistro on the corner of Blanco and Main. And I love his drawings and his intent to do apartments and then businesses with a potential cafe in the bottom section of that. He is seeking support from the commission and is working on the paperwork to request some economic development funds from the city, and we'll probably be having some information before long to complete that transaction. But that sounds very exciting to me. Another remodeled corner on Main Street that would really help downtown. Arvin Trujillo from Forsed was there. He's the new executive director of that organization, and he was reaching out to us to participate and support in economic development in the Four Corners. Again, and I think I mentioned this in the past, he's really interested in pulling in potential funding and support from the tribes in the Four Corners area that have funds that they're investing outside of our area, and see what we can put together as potentially getting them to invest in communities within the Four Corners and keep those funds growing for them and assist us in activities of economic development in our area. So it was an interesting report, and we did encourage him to have an opportunity to set up a time when the full commission could participate and hear his plans along with EDAB. We did gain a person in attendance for real estate. She had some very interesting reports about number of days that properties are on the market before they're sold. That has increased this past year, so that means the market is a little slow. And she had some interesting comments to make about vacation homes that are bringing in a lot of money for folks, and it seems like evidently people are buying real estate with the idea of turning those properties into Airbnb and this sort of thing, which may be an opportunity for us to see what opportunity is there to collect lodger's tax. So, and that's about it for those reports.
All right, thank you. Just really quick, since last meeting, a couple of things I attended on, not this past Saturday, but Saturday before. The American Legion 100-year Jubilee was on Saturday, as was the Farmington, or San Juan County, I'm not sure how it was labeled, the Pride Parade. I was able to participate in both. I got kind of late. I got to the Jubilee a little bit late, and the wind was picking up, and folks were starting to shut down a little bit, but I came through and talked to Mr. Clint Dollar and some of the other folks that were still there, and tried to check it out a little bit, talked to the National Guard folks that had some of their vehicles out there, static display kind of stuff. Tomorrow is the Gold Star families, kind of the banquet, that starts with the procession or the hero's welcome into Aztec. They're due to be rolling through Aztec around 12:15. So if you maybe put a little thing in your phone or something, if you want to come down on Main, I'll be down there, maybe at the Main intersection or something like that, to welcome the folks coming through, and Woody Williams and Mr. Begay, Nathaniel Begay, as they come into town, and they're going to be heading to Farmington to the Gateway Museum and Visitor Center for a luncheon, which begins at about 12:30. And then tomorrow night, of course, is the banquet that we talked about at the last meeting that we got the table for. I think there's one ticket left, right? Which is great. Yesterday we were about half of that, so I'm glad that there's some folks participating and taking the opportunity to honor our Gold Star families from San Juan County, and to get an opportunity to maybe hear Mr. Williams speak, or to, it's just a good cause, and I'm looking forward to it, as a vet, and we have plenty of vets in this area that'll be participating. So let's see. And this past week, last week, I did the opening remarks at the 4th Annual San Juan Animas Water Summit. So I think they kind of rotate around. I believe Mayor Duckett did it last year, and I had the privilege of being invited to do it this year. So I gave some remarks, and I didn't get to stay too awful long, but while I was there, there were some YCC kids doing from the Farmington project, you know, that they're doing in the city there. I saw a couple of my old cadets that moved from Aztec to Farmington, which was kind of cool, and they were able to sit in and do some of the educational stuff. And there was a couple of young people, one from Navajo Prep, and I think another from Dene College, that talked a little bit about some of the projects they're doing. One young man was talking about a solar-powered like water purification system that he's working on. It's kind of a mobile system, you know, with, you know, the reservations in mind, being able to move it around to purify water and to give drinking water. And it was just, you know, it just blows my mind how smart some of these kids are and some of the things that they're working on. So it was just, you know, just a short period of time I was there, it was really cool to see. So I encourage you, as we move through into next year, you know, if you have an opportunity to go, you know, there's some pretty interesting stuff that they're talking about that's very relevant to our daily life, because every single one of us has to drink water to stay alive on this planet. So all the things that are kind of being done, the heavy lifting by some of these folks, that they're doing it day in and day out, and guys like me, you know, just a layperson, going to drink water and going to enjoy the waterways around here is kind of a cool opportunity to learn a little bit. So that's pretty much it for me, and I appreciate everybody. I would like to turn it over to any department head reports.
Mr. Mayor, the proclamation.
This was going to be, I mean, I can read it, but it was just to be presented tomorrow at the luncheon.
Okay.
But, so, I mean, I can read it if you want me to.
No, just make sure we didn't forget.
Okay, no, yeah. Department heads, anybody?
I just have one real quick. I know everybody wants to get home. 2 weeks ago, I was in Billings, Montana for the National Judges Association. Just to let you know, I retained my office on the executive board. We're talking about tourism a while ago and stuff. They're always looking for places for us to hold conferences. So I don't know if any place within the city would be large enough to house, but I can certainly think about bringing them to San Juan County, maybe in the next 5 years. So, I mean, it takes 2 years to plan, but, so that's something that we might think of on a, at a
Yeah.
later date, but.
On a regional, yeah.
So, other than that, everything's going good.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Sheriff. Delane, how are you?
I just need to report that we recently sent out, with our utility bills and emails, a flyer that was provided by Waste Management about ordering your cart, for your recycle cart. We're getting a good response, but the phone number on that form is incorrect.
Ooh.
So we'll be fixing it
Yeah, okay.
next month, but it's too late for a lot of things right now. I've had Ed and Wallace and Willan, I believe, change everything on Facebook and the webpage to correct it. I went in and changed it, but the bills and the emails, it's.
I do have just a quick question about some of the Facebook stuff, and I don't know, Ed or Delane, somebody may be able to speak to this or not. I saw the thing that the city posted, just kind of saying, hey, you know, you'll be getting this, and I had a few questions. I just saw some comments. I didn't personally answer them, but they were just asking some general questions like, what if I don't want it? You know, do I still have to pay for it? I mean, I know the answers to these, but I figure it might be a little better coming from one of you all than me posting on there answering the questions.
What we do is, when Willine gets feedback on our Facebook posting, she'll send it to me and then I'll distribute it to the appropriate
Okay.
department to get
I mean, it was like 2 or 3 comments at the
Yeah.
time. It was yesterday or the day before. It
Okay, I
wasn't.
have it.
And then, like, the ones on recycling, I forward Delane, and Delane responds to it, and then Willine then posts back, Delane's or any other department heads or
Okay.
on whatever they.
That's fine. I was just curious if anybody kind of monitored that and tried to give some feedback and,
Yeah, we
Okay.
monitored it, so any questions, when I
Yeah.
get them, then I answer them. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll be answering those. So yeah, we're
Sounds
getting the
good.
same phone calls, but,
All
and
right.
just, I want to follow up too, that, today we kind of made a clarification to make sure, but, the county residents that receive trash from the city of Aztec as their service, they're not eligible for recycling, so it's inside city limit
okay.
customers only, so, you might hear some feedback on that, but we don't have jurisdiction out there. It's kind of an open market, they call it, where at any time they can decide to cancel their service with the city of Aztec.
Right.
And go with WC or not even have service at all. So
Right.
They
They
don't
could
get that
carry it
option.
themselves if they want.
It's just our jurisdiction, so just keep that in mind when you might get a phone call or email option.
But those ones won't be billed, right?
What's that?
The,
Yeah, they won't
The
be
increase
billed
won't
like
be
the
on
city
the ones
limits.
outside.
Yeah, they won't get billed the
Right.
mandatory
Okay, just
charge,
making
only
sure.
city limits, yeah. I'm working on that with our billing software company, so, to get that all added to it, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Just a brief update on your parks. All projects are going well, but we did experience flooding in Riverside, as you might have seen down there, so the playground is shut off. I don't know how much longer until the river goes down. Also around our softball field looks pretty shaggy, and it's because we can't get any equipment in there. I've been attending ORI meetings as well with Will Ann, and there's a new director of ORI, and that is Warren Unsacker, if you weren't aware. Corey Styron left the position. In each meeting we're in, I think we represent well. I've heard comments on what a great visitor center we have, how well organized we are with our outdoor recreation. We've got a lot of things going on in this community, and I'm sure you guys are all aware of them, you know, beginning with baseball, soccer, softball. We've got the roping arena, we've got the kart track, we've got motocross. We recently had the Alien Run. We've got coming up National Night Out. And so many other things. So I think when we were talking about outdoor recreation, I think Aztec is really on track.
All right, thank you, sir. Ken? See you you're kind of doing one of those. I just thought maybe.
Oh, next time, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
He was not in office.
All right, going once and move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, folks. Have a good night.